We got DJ Camper on the line, Grammy nominated, big supporter of ours. We're a big supporter of his. And, DJ, it's an honor to have you here and join us on this podcast.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just do a quick, debate session. I just want to hear your guys' opinions on it, and we'll just roll from there. So I guess the first topic is the birth and the death of New Jack Swing. I guess for you guys, what do you guys love about the New Jack Swing era?
I guess I'll kick it off. Barry was here. The energy, man. The energy. I actually work out to New Jack Swing. I was talking to Tom yesterday about, what he works out to, and he was, I work out to hip hop, and I was like, well, I work out to R&B, and he looked at me like, why? But the energy of New Jack Swing, man, from God to, what Teddy Riley was doing to Keith Sweat.
Yep.
What Keith Sweat was doing, it just was a really good era. Aaron Hall, it just was a really good vibe. R. Kelly, I really appreciate it for the fact, it was simple. And it seemed like they were just having fun off the fact that they were all in one place at one time, just rocking out, and I feel like we don't do that anymore, as R&B artists, that we just sit and just vibe. Like, everything is so cookie cut and put in place and has to be so serious. And that just was the era where, they were saying the same thing over and over again, or it was a particular notion that they were trying to get across, but at the same time, they were having fun.
And then, of course, Ed, your favorite artist is Keith Sweat, so talk about how Keith Sweat, impacted New Jack Swing with his sound.
First, let me shout out my boy Barry, because I also do my reps to R&B, so, Tom, you can keep hating, but we getting gang over here, homie, to this New Jack Swing. But yes, it is no surprise that I stand very hard for my man Keith. And to me, he is really the godfather, when you pair him with Teddy, of the New Jack Swing sound. And the thing that I love the most about New Jack Swing is the diversity. Teddy Keith can give you a dance record, and it's off the chain. But then he can also switch that tempo, give you a slow jam, and deliver that same amount of energy, but the tone is slowed down. And New Jack Swing's strength was kind of bridging the gap between these upbeat, crazy tempo records and these slower, bedroom burners. However, I will say, because y'all know I'm fair, if nothing else, that was also the downfall of New Jack Swing, because the template was so easy that everybody did it. So by 92, everything sounded the same. I could have done a New Jack Swing record by 92, because the formula was down so pat that everybody just did it, and it really burned the sound out. But at its peak, man, it was, that was the sound to have.
Can I just, there's research that shows that hip-hop is better for working out than R&B, just so you know.
Oh, here you go.
It's all about the BPMs and stuff. But
I'm gonna have to check these stats that you pulling up, player.
Exactly.
Do your little research there, but what's your opinion on the New Jack Swing era? Were you into it?
Oh man, well, I think I was created in this world to it. I was a kid, so growing up, I didn't really, I was born in '90. I'm 25, so when I was born, that's when that era was kind of going strong. However, when I look back on it now and look back and research and do my homework on it, it was definitely a crazy era back then. And fast forward to 2015 music, it's not the same. So I commend artists like Tyrese that goes and just puts out a crazy, for real, authentic R&B album. You know what I mean? Because now it's just the mustard beats and everything else that just sounds the same. You know what I mean? So it's Tyrese came in and just gave us the R&B that we needed, that we heard back in 90 or 91, 92. So that's my input on it. And just the fact that R&B now isn't what it used to be back then. So me at 25, I kind of wish I was born in like 1988 or something like that, or like 65 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what is your earliest memories of R&B?
For me, like, honestly, growing up, like B2K, Mario, yeah, like, as far as, like, listening and enjoying and going to school and everybody singing these songs, these love songs and all of that back then, that's what I kind of grew up on. And I was really like a gospel cat, too. So, I was born and raised in church. So, Darryl Coley and Commission and the Winans, like, those were my R&B guys at that point, too, because they had similar influences in the music back then, too. So, but, as far as the new school, like Omarion or B2K or Mario, like, those are, like, my first, like, or, like, Music Soul Child or somebody like that. Like, those are my earliest R&B songs that I first heard. So
let me ask you guys around the table, and then you guys can answer one at a time. But, I mean, we always hear every other year that R&B is dead. I mean, it's been going on since as long as I can remember, because I'm the same age as Camper. So, I've heard it even when it was the music that I was growing up to, like the Omarions, like the Marios. You would hear R&B is not what it used to be. So, for you guys, what do you think was the point where, for you, R&B wasn't what it used to be? Because for me, I look at it around 2009 is when R&B just really changed.
So it's crazy. It was like every year it would gradually change. When I really, like, just sat down and really just thought about the repetitiveness that kept coming in R&B music of today, I think of 2012 when DJ Mustard beats became real popular, whether it was West Coast or every artist that had a first single, had a beat that was similar to that, which was like a 4-bar loop of whatever the tune is or whatever, but 4-bar loop, and you just repeat it for 3 minutes and you good money. So that was like, that era was almost like the New Jack Swing back in the day, because people loved it. Well, people love it now, but that's not the people that really appreciate R&B, because to me that's not R&B. So when I heard the change, and I'm just like, man, I gotta, I know I can't do it myself, but I need people that has the same mindset as me, so we can make a change again. Like Tamar Braxton's Love and War, although I did it, it wasn't enough. It won an award, but it wasn't enough. And then although Tyrese has an amazing album, it's not going to be enough. We need everybody to come together and bring that back, because this new era of R&B today isn't it ain't going to cut it. I was one last thing. I was in the studio in New York, and I had somebody come to me and we was talking about R&B and all of that. Someone had the nerve to tell me that the new, Fetty Wap and baby, won't you come my way, like all of that, they're saying that that's the new 2015 R&B love song. Yeah, and it's like, that has no comparison to Bump and Grind or I Want to Know Joe and all of that. It's crazy. So we gotta change that.
Ed, I know you're a huge fan of Fetty Wap. I'm just kidding. I know you despise him. I mean, you're a little older than a lot of us. Talk about when you found, the downfall of R&B to be, if you can pinpoint a time period for us.
First, I love how you were like, you're the old head of the crew, dog. So, in your grandpa's home, which one is, when did it fall off? And it's so funny to me because when you look back at it, because, I grew up, I went through New Jack, I went through Neo Soul, I went through the transition when hip hop and R&B kind of married and melded. To me, and I'm gonna see if you guys remember this. Remember BET's Midnight Love? Y'all remember that?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
To me, when R&B fell off was probably around 04-ish, when they started playing rap videos during Midnight Love. It's like they didn't have enough R&B slow records to play an hour program. So they were playing 50 Cent's 20 Questions and like Ja Rule songs and stuff. And I was like, what is going on? And it's funny because no matter how old you are, you always feel like when you get a certain age, something is missing, because to me, my favorite era of R&B is early 90s, mid-90s, and I know all of my older cousins and like my aunts and things like that. That's, if you ask them, oh, Jodeci destroyed R&B, dog, because here they are bringing in hip-hop and diluting the sound. So every generation points out as the genre continues to evolve, you know, the older generation is going to be like, what is this trash? So to me, I really felt it kind of slipping in that era where R&B's identity began to lose itself, when we're starting to, like you say, when we call in Petty Wap an R&B artist. That's kind of where we're falling off. When 50 drops a record with 20 Questions with Nate Dogg on the hook, that's an R&B song? No, that's a rap song with a R&B hook. So to me, that's where we started to slip a little bit, that era. It didn't fall off the cliff to me until a little bit more recently, but as you know, if you're a fan of this podcast or soulandstereo.com, or if you're familiar with Camper, you know that real R&B is out there. I got a text from one of my boys earlier today, and he had just heard Tyrese album for the first time, and he was like, oh, you know, I'm glad this is out because, you know, R&B is dead. And I'm like, you can't be my friend and say R&B is dead when you see I'm reviewing these albums every other week. R&B is out there. You know, you just got to stop listening to top 40 to expect to hear it. So I'm glad. I'm thankful for Tyrese. I'm thankful for what you're doing, Camper. And I like that Monica's got a new album coming out. I think she's calling it Cold Red, and the reason she's calling it that because she said R&B is in a state of emergency. So we got artists, we got producers coming together that's making this genre thrive. So I think we're in a good state as long as fans get out there and support it. Stop listening to that Fatty Wop.
Yep. And then Barry, with you, of course, you're the youngest in this call right now in this podcast. So I think you have a really interesting perspective of R&B because you were able to transition into that new era of R&B where it's more alternative, like the Miguels of the world, the Frank Oceans. So I'm sure you look at R&B a little different than we do. So just talk about your thoughts on, I guess, the downfall of R&B, or if there even is a downfall.
Well, I'm 26, and my view of R&B is actually a little, I wouldn't say flawed, but it's different just for the main fact that I listened to a lot of 80s R&B growing up. So, like, my mother would play a lot of Luther Vandross, a lot of Isley Brothers. So, like, I'm just really, like, 70% of my iPod is probably, like, 80s R&B. So, the difference is I also have appreciation for, R&B started taking a turn 2009, like you were saying, like 2009. But I felt like more of the push was more when the fans were getting these promises and it wasn't really being delivered, you know, and I felt like the fans started losing hope in what was actually coming out. For instance, you know, when Maxwell dropped Black Summer's Night in 2009, he promised three summers worth of R&B albums. That didn't happen. Erykah Badu also promised something that year. That didn't happen. D'Angelo, James River was supposed to come out around that time. That didn't happen. So these were like heavyweights that were like, people were like, okay, like you can kind of break me into what's going on right now with the older artists making more of a modern sound. And I felt like that kind of dropped through, and you were just kind of stuck in a point where you didn't really know what to latch on to, so you latched on to hip hop songs or R&B hooks, you know. So that's where everything kind of took a turn towards more of the sound you're hearing today, where everything sounds like the DJ Mustards and the trap R&B, as I like to call it, that's happening right now with the the 808s and the up tempo sound. And I feel like that really hurt because now we're waiting for the heavyweights, and we're getting heavyweight albums now. You got Tyrese, you got Jill Scott, you got Tamia album coming out, what came out. You have all of these albums that just hitting you back to back. And I don't want to say it's too late because it's still it's catching on. But imagine if this kind of turn was happening back in 2010, 2011, will we still be having this conversation? But I also think that hip hop had to do what it had to do in order for what R&B is doing what it's doing now. So I think it all does in the long run.
But I have a point I want to bring up, related to this. It seems like every generation you talk to, like my parents would say their generation of R&B was the best, and anything that came after that was a downgrade of R&B. People will say the 80s is the best, and the 90s wasn't nearly as good as the 80s, if they grew up in the 80s. So it seems like people always say it's gotten worse as the generations go on. Their generation was the best. It's gotten worse as it goes on. It's just not the same, How do you guys feel about that? Do you agree with that?
Well, it's like I mentioned earlier. I mean, I think everything evolves, and if you came up on a certain sound, you're going to want that sound to remain or at least evolve in a way that is still familiar to you. And sometimes we get a little in our feelings because stuff kind of moves in a different direction, and people are like, well, this isn't what I'm used to R&B sounding like. So I get that a little bit, but then I also don't on my Facebook last night, I got into it because I was talking to some younger fans about this Meek Mill Drake beef, and to younger fans, they think Drake is the God MC. And if you know me, I strongly disagree with that. And the point they were making is, to us, this is the best that we have. To you, you know that they're stronger, so you can't compare the two. And, I understand that. But I think it's also a point where we have to recognize that talent is talent, and we don't want, as things evolve, to lose the ability to entertain us in a good way. It could be a different way, but it still has to be talent, and it has to be there strongly, and it has to be there precisely. So, I mean, you got a point. I do think that things, as we get older, we're like, oh, it's changing, and we're getting old, and we don't like change, and it's whack. But things can change, but we can't be like, just because it's different, we should settle for mediocrity. And that's when I get annoyed.
And then, Camper, for you, I mean, we were just talking about it earlier with the change in R&B. Do you look at, this alternative, vibey R&B, do you consider that to be R&B?
I mean, well, as I was hearing y'all talk, I was just thinking about people's perspective. Like, I watch a lot of basketball, like professional basketball. So, when I was 8, that's when Jordan, bust Brian Russell behind top of the key, hit the shot to win the game for Game 6. So, he was my favorite player. But I have a little brother that's 19 that he will put LeBron up against anybody.
Oh, I had so many arguments in the barbershop about this.
Including Jordan, man.
Yes.
It's crazy because it's like at the end of the day, he would never know because he never experienced how good Michael Jordan was. So, bringing it here, people say, oh, man, back in my day, Earth, Wind & Fire was this, Stevie Wonder was that, but, all we know is what we hear. We wasn't there at that time, so our perspective is going to be a little different on, somebody else's perspective on R&B. With us musicians and songwriters, we understand how much of a legend Stevie Wonder is, how much of a legend Prince is, and everybody else. So it's we get it, but, at the end of the day, it's it's everybody. It's how people, put how their perspective is on, their taste of R&B. So,
right.
You know how that go.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about you, Camper, is that you're working with Layla Hathaway on her next album.
Oh yeah, man.
And Layla Hathaway, she put out her first album when you were, I think, the year you were born. And I find that really interesting that you know, as a younger artist, or, you know, producer would take interest. I think that's really dope. So tell us how to kind of fuse those, you know, the generations.
Well, I mean, again, you know, like when I was talking about perspective, and I was saying that, you know, like trust and believe, there's people out here that get it. I'm one of those people that got it. You know, my father, he wouldn't let me sleep at night because he wanted to show me so much music of his time. I didn't get it then. You know, like he'll wake me up at 2 a.m, come to the car. Get in the car. He's playing Earth, Wind & Fire. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, DJ, this is Earth, Wind & Fire, but we need to get with this. I'm like, I just want to go back to sleep. But, you know, at the end of the day, he was preparing me, and he was just showing me what real was back then. And that type of music stood against the time, or with the time. And, you know what I mean? It's here, and it'll be here for another century or eternity. And Layla Hathaway is one of those artists that, you know, 50 years from now or 100 years from now, you will still appreciate what she's done. So, you know, me working with her was just a dream come true. And, you know, we have some great music coming in. You know, I'm very excited. And she called me the other day and, you know, telling me how happy she was and all that. So, you know, that's always a good thing, man. So stay tuned for that. And so I think she just tweeted that it's on Amazon for pre-order or iTunes or whatever, and then, you know, sooner or later it's going to drop, and then y'all can hear it.
All right. So in this segment of the podcast, we always like to bring up an album from the past and talk about it. So because you are the guest today, Camper, we'll give it to you. You know, what is your favorite?
What's my favorite? Okay.
Or the first album that comes to mind.
It's so many. I'm trying to think.
You could just pick one you think is considered a classic. We just like to discuss anything that's classic material.
Strictly R&B, no hip hop, right?
Well, what do you got from hip hop?
So I can say hip hop then. I can put that in the category.
I'm just curious to hear what you have for hip hop.
Well, hip hop, I'm of all time to me, in my opinion, my top two is, matter of fact, I think my top would be Graduation. Kanye West Graduation.
Oh
really?
Man. Oh man.
Over Jay. Man. Over Jay, man. Over Jay. Over whoever else. I
got to get in on this one. Y'all know I got to get on this one because I had a convo earlier this week, and I have an old post. Somebody find me on that old post, and I was ranking the Kanye albums, and they were trying to tell me that Kanye had 4 like stone cold, unequivocal classics: College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, and My Dark Beautiful blah blah blah. So they were trying to say all 4 were 5-star classics. I think the devil is a lie, and he only got 2. And I think of the 4, that Graduation, I was saying, I thought was the weakest out of the 4. So why are you saying Graduation is like the top? Now, I'm not saying it's the worst. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not the worst Kanye album. It's not at all, because that goes to that auto-tune garbage. But, like, of those 4, people always say that, you know, those are his big 4. To me, that's the last on the list. So why would you put that one up at the top?
Well, to me, in my opinion, there's a song on there that you can't skip. He has an album, out of all the albums, that's my favorite album of his, due to the reason why I can't skip a song. Every song is just crazy to me.
Yeah, you can. So you can listen to Drunken Hot Girls and not throw up, because that song is hot booty.
Listen, like, you know, it's like a nightlife song, and, you know, you're in the car cruising down the street, like, you know, going wherever, and you know, you put that on. Now, mind you, that's my least favorite song, but I'm not going to skip it. I'm not going to skip it because it still has a vibe, you know. So it's like
that vibe puts me to sleep. That joint's so boring, though.
Man, Kanye West graduation album, man.
Yep.
Classic.
Ed, what's your favorite Kanye album?
With no shadow of a doubt, College Dropout. I was saying this last night when I was fussing with the children about classic albums. To me, when we talk about classics, we throw that word around way too much in 2015.
Absolutely,
Drop something and all of a sudden it's a classic. To me, the only real classics we've had in the past 10, 11 years, College Dropout, Lupe's first album, maybe a couple others. But, like, those are, like, one of the two that just stick in my mind. So, without a shadow of a doubt, College Dropout, one of the greatest albums of all time. Not even best Kanye album, albums of all time.
So, can we just continue around the table then? Ed, what is your favorite hip-hop album of all time?
Favorite hip-hop album?
Yeah.
You got a brother on the spot.
And Barry, you could chime in too. I want to hear yours.
Just the first thing that pops in my mind is Illmatic because it was just the game changer. I mean, to me, that is, again, another one of the greatest albums ever created. So I'm not sure if it's my favorite. To me, it's definitely the best. So, but I'll pick that. You can't go wrong with Illmatic.
Barry?
One Blueprint. It was actually my very, and I'm probably showing my age, but it was my very first hip-hop album I purchased.
Damn. Damn, you didn't go back and listen to the classics?
Yes. Let me put you on, player.
Yeah, you got more homework. Kyle?
Man, I might go with the Blueprint as well.
Oh, man. I thought you were going to name a Fabulous album.
Kyle did not want me to slam this mic down in his ear. You up here naming Fab out. And I love Fab. Shout out to Fab.
I'm a Fabulous fan myself.
Mixtape Fab is a monster. Album Fab, the albums don't really be popping, but the mixtape flows, whoo.
Yeah.
So let's get back on topic. Back to you, Camper. We need that R&B classic. Just random, pick whatever one that comes to mind.
All right, shoot. Okay, well, the first one that comes to mind is going to be the Full Moon album. Brandy, Full Moon.
Brandy's Full Moon.
Brandy's Full Moon.
You got to go with Kyle first on that one.
You know what?
Brandy.
We always talk about the Full Moon album on this podcast. I mean, everyone loves it, and it's kind of stood the test of time. I know Ed kind of disagrees with that, but I mean, that was a great album. Brandy sounds amazing on it. Actually, it's not even my favorite Brandy album, surprisingly. My favorite actually was the Aphrodisiac album. Yeah, that's personally speaking, but yeah, I mean, my favorite song on the Full Moon album would probably be When You Touch Me or Full Moon. Yeah.
Just a disclaimer, Kyle is a big Brandy fan, just so you know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hey, man, you should have caught her on Broadway in New York on the Chicago show, man. You know, her last day is Sunday.
Yeah.
She's doing a phenomenal job. Brandy, shout out to you, love. She's doing an amazing job.
Yep.
I saw her like 4 times.
Is that your favorite Brandy album?
Yes, that's my favorite Brandy album. Shout out to my family, Rodney Jerkins, Freddie Jerkins, Joe Wilson, Sean Daniels. They all put it down on that album, man. It's my favorite Brandy album. Favorite.
What about it? What about it makes you like it?
Well, I mean, you know, the music, the production was crazy. The production was ahead of its time in that era. Like, you can play it now, and it will go against a lot of R&B artists of today. And that was made over a decade ago. You know what I mean? So it's like the approach was just like the overall approach was just crazy. You know, from vocally to musically, you know, it was just a well put together, well put album. And you know, I don't think she did that with Aphrodisiac. Aphrodisiac, she had a couple of songs that were nice, but as an album as a whole, Full Moon definitely is the one that, you know, I'm gonna go with. Like Human to Human or Human, that album, I didn't like that album. I felt like she was really, it was it wasn't what she is known to do. And then the last album she put out, I think, 211 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, I really didn't. Yeah, I had to, say, listen, this is honey. Honey.
It's like the Never Say Never album just never came out.
Yeah. I know.
What?
And I know.
Man.
That's Full Moon, man. That's
I mean, Ed, Barry, you taking the Never Say Never album over that one?
And we've gone over this before, so Ed is the podcast hater. So I do think Never Say Never is the best album of her catalog. I still think it's vastly overrated. It's a great album, but I think it's vastly overrated. But that's just me.
Yeah. Barry?
I'm taking Full Moon, man. Like
Full Moon, man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That album to me was like not only like a display of sincerity in R&B, but just overall passion. Like she like leaked out on that album. Like you just can't explain it. And like you really wish for albums like that now. Like you really wish for people to pour their souls out, because unfortunately, as we joke so much about like R&B being emotional, like it's an emotional thing, but we're not emotional no more when it comes to being behind a microphone and being out there and putting ourselves out there. Like I think it's so crazy that we have hip hop artists putting themselves out there more than R&B artists, like telling their whole lives, and like you can hear the emotion in their voice. Like I want that again. And like she did that on Full Moon, man. Like it is classic, easy, done. I got another one. Like you talking R&B albums that you think is a classic, and it's a little bit off of branding. Y'all may not expect it, but Emotional by Carl Thomas was a classic album to me, like all the way through, all the way.
Well, that was a banger. I wouldn't call it a classic, but it was a banger, definitely. Went very hard. Easily the best thing that Carl did.
Carl Thomas, he's a good friend of ours, and I'm with Ed on this one. I don't know if I'd call it a classic. Great album, Carl's debut, quality album. Classic, I just don't like to throw that title out there too often. I've reserved for this very few albums. So, Kyle, what do you think?
I mean, I'm a huge fan, and I've really gone to finally, recognize the greatness that was the early 2000s R&B sound. I mean, people like Carl Thomas, the Sunshine Anderson song, heard it all before. I mean, that was a great era for R&B that I think kind of gets overlooked now. But, I mean, that was a great record. A lot of great records came from that era. But I think what's interesting is a couple of years after that is when R&B went through another transition to where it was, more production-based. You had a lot of different producers who came out at the time, such as, Timbaland and Pharrell obviously had been doing their things, but you saw, the emergence of Brian Michael Cox, of Tumble the Dawn, of The Underdogs. So I guess we'll go into this segment that we call This or That, where I'll just name a couple of options, and I guess the order, because, we're on a conference call right now, we'll go Camper first, we'll go Ed, and then we'll go Barry, and then we'll go Tom. So the first This or That, this is for the younger people out there, I guess.
Wait. Hey, Kyle.
What's up?
I thought I do this or that.
All right, you can do the This or That.
Why are you stealing my segment, man?
All right, you can go.
Jeez. Are you ready?
Yep.
I'm ready, man.
All right. So I'm going to name two things. You just tell me what you prefer, Camper. We'll start with you. WWF or WCW?
WWF, man.
Throw it on the table.
Player, for me, I grew up in Virginia, the Mid-South area, so I came up on that Ric Flair stuff. WCW. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and to this day, I've still never been to a WWF show. But I've been in like a zillion WCW doings. So WCW, I'm always on that.
Harry?
This is tough. This is super tough. I'm also from Virginia, and I think I gotta go WCW, man. But I will. Yeah, I gotta go WCW, and I say that because I feel like I was more engaged in the personalities. Like I wanted to be a part of NWO, of WCW, and the Four Horsemen, and like Latino Heat, like it's just great. R.I.P. Roddy Piper, he passed today. That was really saddening to me. So.
Yeah, I heard about that just before I hopped on the call, so that hit me too, man.
Can we get a moment of silence?
Yeah, for the hot rod, do it.
All right, rest in peace, Roddy Piper.
Yep.
Kyle?
Yep. You know what? I would say, I'm going to go with the WWF, but the WCW, they had the best video game for the Nintendo 64. WCW.
You ain't never lied, player. That's a real statement on this whole podcast, dog.
Oh, man. Moving on. Okay. Nintendo, Xbox, or PlayStation?
Now, can we break it down? So, like, is it Nintendo 64? Is it PS4? Is it Xbox One?
We're going with the latest edition of each system.
Man, I was always a PlayStation man, so I'm going with the PlayStation, baby.
Oh yeah, this is so ironic. I literally in the mail today got a Nintendo 3DS, but I got the kind that looks like the original 8-bit Nintendo. It like looks like the controller. I'm literally watching it now charge up because I just pulled it out of the box. But
Crazy.
I came up a Nintendo dude, but honestly, now that I'm old and gray and married man, I don't get on my games as much as I used to. But when I do, it's PlayStation. So
hey.
I'm still on
Barry?
PS3 though, so I'm still
Microsoft, Xbox since day one, man.
Man, you on that Xbox? Your joint probably got a red ring of death, dog. How many Xboxes did you got?
Oh man,
Kyle?
Well, I just got a PS4 recently. I don't really play video games anymore, but I have PS4, so I guess I'll go with PS4.
Hey.
Damn, no one's on the Wii U like me.
PlayStation.
No, it's just you and your girl playing Wii U, dog. Sorry.
Pretty much. I mean,
I've got the Wii too, so no, we play that. The wife plays that little dance joint. I just watch.
Moving on.
I mean, dogs working on it. I mean, y'all tripping.
Dogs or cats?
Say it again.
Dogs or cats?
Man, dogs, man.
Dogs, definitely.
Dogs.
I mean, what's the use of cats? Cats aren't even like. They're mean. Friendly. They're mean, right?
No, cats are cool. Like if you get a kitten, they're really loving, but cats are like teenagers. Like they straight when they're little kids, but then once they get older, they like feel like they running stuff, so they just kind of do their own thing. So I mean, they're low maintenance at least.
All right, Jay-Z or Nas?
Oh my Lord.
I mean, oh man.
We're back in 2001 here.
Oh, I know we are. I was 11, and I was really in my Jay-Z bag there. What it is, but it just goes down to preference, and I'm going with Sean Carter, man.
Oof.
Now, you know I can go all day on this, so I'm going to keep this brief. But until 2009, my top 3 MCs always went Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas. But when that dude dropped Blueprint 3 and Nas dropped Life is Good, it went from Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z. Jay has underperformed for so long, and Nas has maintained that level of excellence. So I just got to put Nas above him. I feel like, everybody loves Jay because, he rapping about going to brunch in Paris and he's so rich, whatever. I'm all about skills at this point, and I feel like Nas has not deteriorated, and Jay has. So he's been overtaken. Nas all day.
Wow. Barry?
We had this I had this conversation yesterday. I had somebody tell me that Nas took the battle because of Ether, which that's a whole nother day. But the wittiness, man. The wittiness, triple entendres, the way that they will put out, nobody does it like Jay-Z, man. Like,
right.
Hands down, man. Like,
well, yeah, nobody did it like Jay-Z, but, that was 2002.
Haters, man.
2015, he talking about breakfast is for breakfasts. I'm like, come on, dog. How old are you?
Haters, man. Kyle?
I think I'm going to go with Jay-Z. The Blueprint is my favorite hip-hop album, and just because of that, I have to stick with Jay-Z. Just a quick side note for everyone. DJ Camper actually co-produced Somewhere, which was on Jay-Z's last album. So shout out Camper.
Yeah, shout out Camper.
Man, thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so now that album I actually liked. Blueprint 3, yeah.
So, final this or that is Mariah or Mary J?
Woo! As what, somebody to date or like to work with or?
Come on, man. The music, man.
You have to be clear about these things, man.
The music, just strictly music.
Oh man, it's crazy because I thought the last one was going to be the whole Meek and Drake versus Drake, man, and I would have to say that's classified.
It's classified.
Classified. That's above your pay grade. No. But I worked with both of them. I was blessed to be a part of their musical lives. Mariah Carey and Mary J. and the song I did with Mariah is actually featuring Nas called Dedicated.
Yep.
I did it with Hit Boy. Shout out to Hit Boy. My Mary J. Blige song is called Self Love, and that was on the I feel like a Man 2 soundtrack.
Yes, it was. And very underrated.
Yeah, right, exactly. And both great songs. I think I will go with Mary J. because of, not saying that I don't believe Mariah when she, I don't believe her, but I believe Mary J. Blige. When she did No More Pain, I felt that. And when she sings, she makes you get into what she's saying, and you feel her because she knows how to get you. So sometimes she has her moments, but at the end of the day, I love the realness about Mary. So I'm going with Mary, man.
Yeah, I really feel you on that explanation because you pretty much summed up what I was going to say. I think if you look at their peak, nobody with good sense would say that Mariah takes a back seat to Mary J. because at her peak, Mariah is probably one of the best voices ever. But nobody makes you feel a song, feel that joint in your soul like MJB. Yeah. So Mary J. all the way.
Yeah.
Terry?
Oh man. I'm gonna have to carry in on this one, and y'all might not like me. But I felt We Belong Together. Like, I remember that being on repeat, you know, and I think that the versatility of records with ODB and Bone Thugs and Harmony, and then with her style of voice, you know, like it's easy to be soulful on a record, but to be able to use the type of voice that she had to reach different octaves and so forth, I have to go Mariah Carey. Like, honey.
Hey, you know what? I kind of wish today we did the draft so I could tell you guys, you know, I'm not going to be a part of the draft, but if I were, I would go with Mariah Carey. She has 18 number one singles. That itself.
Oh, you're going by the book, okay.
People the stats out.
Hit for hit, man. Can't deny it.
Man, you going there? Allen Iverson is arguably he's my favorite. He's my favorite. I'm not going to say two guard, but Allen Iverson is one of the greatest in the game.
Yep.
With no rings though.
Yep.
So it's like, you know, but is he still ranked one of the greatest without a ring?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Absolutely. That's one of the greatest scorers of all time, though.
All right, wait, hold on. I have a question for you guys then. If we're talking about sports, who would you guys rather take, Allen Iverson or Steve Nash?
Whoa.
As well, I mean, because they play two different positions. Steve Nash was to the point guard, but Allen Iverson was a two guard. Remember, they had Eric Snow at the point.
Right. Well, who would you start out a franchise with?
Allen Iverson.
Wow.
Although Steve Nash had two back-to-back MVPs, yes, I will give him that. But I'm thinking the fourth quarter when it's crunch time and somebody needs to step up.
Well, my opinion, Iverson didn't make anyone around him better, though. That's just
you
my
think
opinion.
So?
I'm just saying, Eric Snow, though, like he brought like the worst team ever to the finals, though. Like that Sixers team that he brought to the finals was like probably the worst final team ever.
Yeah, but back in 2001, they weren't the worst. They weren't one of the worst squads. They really had a decent squad. They had Eric Snow that could defend very well. You had Aaron McKee. If you leave him open, he will shoot the lights out. Then you had the Kevin Mutombo talking about knocking miles. Then you had what you had. You had Theo Ratliff coming off the bench. No, I think he was starting. Then you had Tyrone Hill. Everybody on that team. George Lynch, like they had a solid team.
George Lynch, come on,
George
man.
Lynch, yes, he was solid. Okay, I got something for you, bro. Here we go. 2001 Sixers team was better than LeBron Cavaliers team right now. Please argue with me.
I agree on that. I agree on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Like 01 was their year to take it off, but however. You know, Kobe Bryant and Shaq and the Lakers, they were just too good. But, you know, in the East, nobody could, you know, mess with them, you know. Even Vince Carter in Toronto. And, you know, Vince Carter was on then, baby.
Vince Carter. Yep.
But, you know, but that's how I feel about that, though.
Well, I figured out the Mariah versus Mary J debate. Mary J has won 9 Grammys, and Mariah has won 5.
Wow.
So that's settled.
Oh, come on.
That's settled. I'm just saying.
Man. That's that real. That's the realness.
Oh, come on.
Drake. I think Drake has what? One Grammy.
I mean, you want to take it there, doesn't Iggy Azalea have the Grammy? So
right.
I ain't taking them plaques to too much. Give them too much credit. They're doing no. Cause there's some garbage people holding some of those little megaphone things.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying Drake is arguably one. Drake right now, or Drake is what Jay-Z was to somebody like in the 90s, 2000 era. Like that's what Drake is.
Player, let me tell you from somebody who lived through that. Drake is more like early Ja Rule than Jay-Z. There's no, and I'm serious, and I'm not like no diss to Ja, because Ja was fine until he hooked up with J-Lo, and that was a whole other disaster. But like Drake has the actual, when it comes to commercial fame, he on that joint. But when it comes to critical and it comes to content, player, no, dog, no. He ain't got a classic.
Kyle, do we have time to do we have time, man? Do we have time or no? We don't have time to discuss this. Because just give me 1 minute. I just feel like, you know, Drake because of what Drake is, he's not like the average rapper because he isn't the average rapper. He's not from, you know, where I guess I'm from, you know, in Atlantic City where, you know, it's sterile down here, or, you know, he's not from a hood part where he reps a gang or talks about guns or whatever. So whatever he grew up doing, that's what he talks about. His content is always real, and you know, people understand that. That's why people mess with him versus somebody that's, you know, meet me in the bathroom or rolling on my wrist. Like, nobody cares about the watch, bro. Like, talk about something that we can relate to, and that's what Drake does.
No,
really,
Drake definitely does that. He does that well. However, he does, and I give him props for, and Kanye, you know, we got like Drake is the first person to do this. Kanye did it well. Outkast, they did it well. Like, there were older artists who talked about their experiences, and they weren't fronting and talking about who they going to beat up and shoot up. Because as much screaming as Meek Mill does, he ain't done nothing yet. So half these dudes talking just talk. Trust that. But you ain't thorough. But when it comes to Drake, my beef ain't even that. My problem with Drake is that he is a great artist that spends half his time in like third gear. He does not turn it up. He coasts, and we applaud him because it's Drake, when he could be going so much harder. Like, I hear these bars, and I'm like, you did not think about this, dog. You did not go hard enough. When you listen to
what it is?
Earlier stuff, he's not bringing it as he should be bringing it. And that's why I get frustrated with dude, because he could be putting out classic content, but Drake has not given us a classic anything. And he's been in the game over 5 years. Not a classic nothing, dog. Not one classic.
Oh, man.
What would you call a Drake classic? What would you call a classic?
Nothing was the same as a classic.
Nothing was the same was a classic.
Take care is a classic.
No, sir. No, sir.
If you're reading this is too late as a classic, I'm gonna tell you why.
If you're reading this too late, I'm holding my drink is sitting on that CD right now. It is a coaster. That's what that is.
All right. Listen, man. I'm just giving how I see. I'm just speaking on how I see it. I mean, listen. I'm around, and it's like at the end of the day, it's just like. Ain't nobody has been consistent like this man has. He's in a category of his own. Nobody can mess with him in what he does. He can hit you with a starter from the bottom and then take you home talking about what's the other song? Just Hold On, We're Going Home, or We're Going Home. Like he's so versatile like that, and he does not miss. And he's the only rapper that has 13, 14 songs that was on the mixtape on the charts. And
but,
you know, he's like that.
No, like I said, just because you're on the charts, though, don't give me any kind of designation of your talent, because Iggy was all up in them charts last year, and she is hot garbage. But my problem with Drake is that, yes, he gives us a Hold On, We're Going Home, which is a great song. Then he turned around and put out that garbage where it was a remix of that Juvenile song where it looks like the girl practicing dancing in the mirror. What was that thing called? Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it was called Practice. That's what it was called. You can't put out some garbage like that sounds like you made it up 4 minutes while you were driving to the studio, then call yourself classic. No, he's just too inconsistent, dog.
Can I get us back on track here? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, my fault, dog. I'm all losing my soul in stereo.
First off, shout out to Drake. he shouted out Tank on one of his songs, and they collaborated together, and we're big Tank fans, so that's dope. But we got to get back on track. Camper, you're from Atlantic City, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
What is the music scene in Atlantic City? Because here in New York, we consider Atlantic City just like casinos. We don't know anything else about it.
So, I mean, you know, people say that Atlantic City is like the baby Vegas. You know, it's casinos and it's a nightlife, and you know, it's very cool and settled. You know, it's not a lot goes on, but it's not quiet either. But at the same time, you know, it's quiet. For me, it's home. So, you know, I can travel all over the world, but you know, I just have a certain appreciation for where I'm from. So, you know, sometimes, you know, one time come down and I'll show you around. You know, we'll touch the road and I'll just show you my stomping grounds, man. It's very friendly out here, and you know, it's a small town. You know, it's a very small, interesting town, man. You know, it's my town. So yeah, it's, you know, Atlantic City's cool, man.